The East African Community Monetary Affairs Committee's 26th ordinary meeting held in Bujumbura, Burundi on March 20th, 2023 reaffirmed their commitment to working with the East African Community Secretariat to expedite the implementation of the activities in the updated East Africa Community Monetary Union roadmap. The East Africa Budget Network members are, however, very negative about it because they believe that the roadmap up to 2031 is so lengthy and some member nations have purposefully failed to follow the protocol.
To encourage government to accelerate the establishment of the East African Monetary Union and the common currency. We think that going up to 2031 as the new roadmap that has been established is really making East Africans wait for too long. It also will discourage the rest of the regional blocs across Africa, like ECOWAS, like SADC, the Maghrebs in Northern Africa.
We are now, I think, 7 countries of EAC, but few countries are doing tremendous job to harmonize. And if you look into the historical background, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya were the first country to have the East Africa. Later on, I think all of you know the history. So it came to 2007 when Burundi and Rwanda joined. And Commissioner, you are here to correct the historical background of it. Then South Sudan joined, DRC now is on board. So and then the East African Budget Network need also to be aware of this. Since we are working to harmonize our policies and have one economic bloc that's sound and vibrant, we need also to bring together the effort of civil society organization in the region.
The biggest obstacle, according to Julius Mukunda, is some countries' egotism because they fear losing their sovereignty once the monetary union is on track. Even though some countries may have difficulty implementing the macroeconomic convergence criteria because the implementation is far behind schedule.
Despite Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and maybe Rwanda trying so hard to have the convergence criteria, that is, that before we have a single currency, there are things we should all have that look the same. Like, for example, our debt levels, like, for example, inflation issues, like, for example, the amount of money we collect and the difference between the amount of money we collect and spend, that is fiscal deficit, that we should also be having almost the same. We find that other countries are still lagging behind. But also with COVID coming in, we have also even ourselves having some slow progress to achieving that. And now, all the targets we were supposed to have by 2024 have actually now been pushed to 2031. We believe for us that the way we do work, we might not even achieve that there should be something different, strategic, that countries need to do to be able to work so hard achieve the targets that we would want. So it's going to be a very long progress, but also a very slow one to do that. Progress is a result of selfish reasons by different country states. Because when you say there should be non-tariff barriers, and for you still have them, you agree today, but after 1 week you plank them back. Those are selfish reasons, and lack of respect for the international law or regional policies that we have agreed upon. Because you have different interest groups that resort to frustrate the progress of the East African community. So for us, we feel that the East African community affairs have only been managed by politicians, and to large its level, the technocrats. We believe that the role of citizens, of the East African citizens, in the formulation of these policies is greatly lacking. And that is going to be our starting point at the East African Budget Network.
To review our timelines, there's been some delay because of some delay in implementing some of the prerequisites of the Monetary Union, which we need to have before we introduce the single currency. Now, we are making some good progress, however, and we have come up with the new timelines. We shall be introducing the currency now in 2031. Some of the difficulties we have is implementation in the partner states and the fears some people have about some of the challenges that they would face, competition from players from other countries. But that is something that is actually underlying the purpose of the Monetary Union. The purpose is to ensure that citizens in the individual partner states actually benefit from the Monetary Union, including exporting more from the countries to the other partner states.
One of the most crucial things to keep in mind when thinking about the East Africa Community Monetary Union is the formation of the support institutions or prerequisites. That is, say, the East African Central Bank, the Statistics Bureau, the East African Surveillance, and the harmonization of physical, monetary, financial, statistical, procurement, legal, and payment system principles. According to Dr. Musisi, the Minister of Finance's Monetary Union Chief, the only guarantee that the East African Community Monetary Union Protocol will be implemented is if citizens demand it and politicians have the political will to do so.
One is that you must keep debt below 50% of GDP. You must keep your inflation levels low. Your government should not borrow excessively, and your fiscal deficit should be no more than 3%. Those are the requirements, but also there are others, including ensuring that we have the necessary institutions to manage the monetary union. For example, the East African Central Bank. Those have to be created, and a number of other institutions. All that is, and also harmonization of fiscal policies, having the same tax systems, ensuring we have the same exchange rate policies, and this is ongoing work which the different institutions are implementing at the moment. But the speed is slow, and we need to increase that.
We are seeing like three things, major ones. Number one is the fear to lose sovereignty. That countries fear to give up the way they make decisions, to give it to somebody else to make decisions on their behalf. For example, if we want a single currency, we need an East African Central Bank, which means that this business of us going to our bank here and pick money and spend is not going to be there. This business of the way we regulate inflation and exchange rate is going to be done by the central bank. So countries have that fear that if you give somebody the powers to do so on your behalf, then you are losing control and power on how you manage your own affairs. But if we are to prosper and progress as nations, that's what is supposed to be done. The second one is mistrust among the East African states. We understand the Tanzanians feel that if we take on this role, probably we might likely to steal their land. That's another thing. But all this is because of misinformation. Is that when you have competent authorities in place.
The monetary union and the political federation, it is the citizens who are going to demand that will push the rest of us, including the political will come. Because if indeed the citizens want something, then the politicians will certainly follow and implement, because the people decide. So that's why we are trying to ensure that there's awareness, that so many people understand the benefits and they see what they lose if we don't go into this integration and also the monetary union. And that's the only way I see us actually moving.
Because transaction costs would be lower and banks' revenue from currency trading would decrease, the introduction of a single currency would have a significant effect on businesses and banks throughout the region. Ronana Habwe, Smart24 TV, Business Today.